Hi, Berkley.
Hi.
So, this is my friend Berkley. We've known each other since sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been through a lot together. She keeps me in check more than I keep her in check. And recently, she's had some really awesome things to say about life and about babysitting, especially. And so today, we're going to be focusing on specifically the babysitting part and just talking about life and simplicity because, kids can really teach you a lot. And so I kind of just want to talk about first to start, when did you get started in babysitting?
So I have been babysitting since I was 12. I've never actually had a job before. I've never worked in like retail or food or like anything like that. So I've only ever just babysat. And I started so young because I've gone to the same church pretty much since I was like 2. So I've pretty much grown up there. And obviously, like at church, people have kids. And so a lot of the kids there, I kind of like watched them grow up, I guess. And so I always just kind of was like drawn to kids, I guess. I don't know. And so I just remember people always asking my parents, like, oh, when can Berkeley babysit? When she, so they started letting me when I was around 12, and I just kept doing it. And as I got older, my friends started to get other jobs in like retail. And so there was almost like not anyone that would babysit. Like, like when someone asks you to babysit and you can't, it's hard to find someone to like do it. And so I started getting way more jobs from it because everybody else was working. So I just kept doing it. And I never have had like any desire to have a different job or like apply for anything, which is probably kind of bad, but
No, I
so
was about to say, it just made me realize, you've never actually had a
no,
job, and I was like, crap,
literally,
how have I never
literally
realized that
never.
before?
Yeah.
And that's crazy too, because 12, when I started babysitting, it was in life groups and stuff, and I would watch 12 kids at a time, but there would still be the adults downstairs, but you were actually going and getting paid to babysit.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so when did it start to pick up more
Well, I kind
around?
of, I kind of did kind of what you said, like more of like a mommy's helper sort of thing. I would slowly start doing stuff like that, and then I've just like, I don't know, I've just always been very like responsible, I guess, as a kid. Like that was always a really important quality to have, and so and I've always been around older people. So being around older people makes you grow up faster. And so I think I started super young. So it kind of, I guess, changed more when I started nannying in the summers. Because it was more of like a full-time sort of thing. And then there's always families that I will babysit for like pretty regularly on the weekends. But the nannying thing was a big like switch, like a big, I'm not just a babysitter, like I'm, like a caregiver pretty much now. So I would say, and I think the first time I nannied over the summer, um, I think it was the summer before senior year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the summer before senior year was the first time that or no, just kidding. It was before that.
I was about to say
But
it was definitely earlier than that.
yeah, I forgot about one of the families that it was like it was the summer before high school was the first time I ever nannied for the summer. So I was 14, 15, 14 when I started nannying. So that's probably when I think it changed.
How old were the kids?
I had 3, which it wasn't necessarily like the best situation for my first nannying job. I have 3 now, but the 3 that I had at first, there was an older boy, but he had I think he had autism. So that was really difficult. He was like 7, I think, and then there was a girl, she was 5. Then there was a boy who was 2. So working with an autistic kid and a 2-year-old, and then a middle child who's a girl who wants attention was hard, especially being 14. And I was very underpaid. And the parents worked from home and all this stuff. But I learned a lot that summer about babysitting. Um, I'm surprised I went back to it after that summer, but
Right? I've been like,
but
I'm done.
yeah, but I was not very, and this may have been just because I was like younger. I wasn't emotionally attached to them at all. Like I was ready for the summer to end and I was ready to be done with it. And now that's not how I am at all.
Mhm.
So that was the first time. I was 14.
That's a lot, but I feel like that really set you up perfectly for how great of a nanny you are now. And I mean, you do so much. Like, I can't keep up with the amount of families that you nanny for. Like, it's
Neither.
pretty much different. Like every single week, I'm like, which one is this again? Which is
Yeah.
that's
No,
amazing for someone your age to have that much of an outreach.
like you saw on my Instagram, people ask me like, how does everyone know that you babysit? And I don't know, like community, right? And so as you meet different people in different neighborhoods, people use you. And like I said, there's almost like a shortage of babysitters. So if somebody knows that you babysit, especially if you're, they want like older babysitters. So it is cool. Sometimes it's like really cool to see how the amount of people that I know and that I'm like connected through are because of babysitting. So I'm definitely like I feel like I'm more active in like our community because I babysit. So I think it's cool. Yeah.
Man, because I mean, you got me started on a lot of my babysitting stuff. Like Sandra, I think you had referred me to, and then I had babysat once for this person, and then I was referred to someone else, and it was the summer nannying job I had last year with those 3 kids.
Hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to nanny for them this summer, but then COVID happened and all that stuff. But it just, it's such an amazing experience, I feel like, because what I'm going to get into here with the topic is you post so much on your Instagram and your Snapchat about how much the kids teach you. And so, would you
Mm-hmm.
mind sharing a couple of stories and like how they've taught you and like in what topics specifically have they taught you and helped you grow? Because I feel like that's so important for someone that's so young and so
Yeah.
socially immature
Mm-hmm.
to have an impact on someone so much more mature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Um, Before I tell you the story, though, I was gonna say a lot of people ask me like, I could never babysit, like I could never do that as a job. I hate kids, I blah blah. And I think like what you just said, a lot of people, not everyone's meant to babysit. And so, just like not everyone's meant to have kids or not be a teacher or, so, but I think to me, it's more rewarding for me than it is for the kids. And so I'll tell you my stories now is, so I've been nannying the same family, or the same kids, not the whole family, but for, for the same family for this was my second summer, and then hopefully next summer if the kids aren't too old, because the twins are going to be like 10. So they live in my neighborhood, and I literally it's probably like how I started babysitting for them is honestly like really cool to me because we have a neighborhood Facebook page, and we have like people will just post something like, hey, can anyone babysit tonight? So her name, well, I won't say her name, but the lady posted on our Facebook page, she was like, hey, like we're looking for a summer nanny. And I just happened to just be like, okay, like I'll do it. So I came and met them, and the first summer I was with them, they hated me. They literally hated me. And nobody knows
What?
that actually, but they literally hated me. Like we always had issues, and I was like, I'm never babysitting again. I'm not nannying these kids. Like I'm not doing it anymore. Like I would cry every day when I would come home. It was so stressful. And towards the end of that summer, we got really close for some reason. And I don't really know if there was like a specific moment where I like got close with them, but I think what happened was I started looking at them as human beings rather than children. And I talk about that a lot in like my blogs and like things that I post is like what kids, like the very main thing that kids have taught me is that their feelings are just as valid as mine, and how they process and how they like um what is it, like show emotion is just as valuable and equal and okay as how I do it. And so I started looking at it differently, I guess. And when you look at kids as human beings, the things that they say and the things that they do make so much more sense. And I started noticing just little things about each of them that was special to me and as to who they were. And so then this next summer, like the most recent, what I just finished, was amazing. And one of my like favorite stories ever, and I was telling my mom about it on the way home or the way to college yesterday. Um, you know that song "Never Grow Up" by Taylor Swift?
Yes.
Yeah, so they love that song. And anytime we're like in the car, we're like going to get like ice cream or the pool or something. Um, there's a little girl. She just turned 6 this summer, and she always says, "Berkley, can you play the Grow Up song?" So I'll play it, and then I like will listen to them like kind of sing it in the back seat, and they'll just like kind of say things, and I don't know what it is, but it's something about the way that they listen to the song and the way that they like understand the lyrics in it it is just like it kind of like gives me chills like in the car. And so like after the song ended one day, she goes, "Berkley, why are minutes so fast?" Like she asked me that. She said, "Why are minutes so fast? How
Wow.
come why are minutes so fast, and why do we not make minutes longer? Why can't we make minutes longer?" And at first I was kind of like, well, because they're only 60 seconds. So, and then I was like, oh, wait. And it was just like, I don't know. It was, and I told my mom that she said that to me, and my mom like started crying, and I was like, anyway.
I
And
would start crying too. It's like, man.
yeah, it was really sweet. And like we have a lot of good conversations in the car. And so I think kids teach me, and especially those three, because those three are probably, like I call them my kids, like I'm with them all the time. And they've probably taught me about what it means to live in the minute, I guess. Like live in the minute and like not necessarily the moment, because not every moment is a good moment. But I thought that it was like it was just really cool that she asked me that. But usually it's not even things that they say. It's just kind of how they interact with their kids. And it's or not their kids, with their friends. It's how they like just how they interact with other kids, like at the pool or when like they have friends come over, or even me, just how they interact is, I don't know, it's a unique, the mindset of kids is so simple but so like misunderstood. And for her to ask me that, like I'll think about that for the rest of my life now, like why are minutes so fast? And like I just think that they notice things that you don't realize, even if you think, if you think they don't, they totally know. They know what love is, and they know what it means to share and to be kind and to say I'm sorry. And when you see them like genuinely expressing their feelings and they're constantly shot down for it, that does nothing to help them develop. Nothing. And so they've taught me, I guess it's like three main things: to live in the minutes, that they're just as much of a person as I am, and that feeling your emotions differently from someone else doesn't make them wrong. And then there's like, random things like putting dishwashing soap on the slip and slide is not a good idea. Um, so
No.
that's also something I've learned. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, there's just all kinds of funny things that kids will say that they don't even realize. But I've never felt more joy in my life than when I'm with kids. And so that's why I'm going to be a teacher. Like I literally changed my major like after the first semester of last year because I was like, I just have to. Like I have to be a teacher. I have to do this. I have to, you know, like it's just what I'm supposed to do. And I'm way more excited about it than I was of what I was going to do before that. So that was a long answer, but those are the three things that they really taught me.
No, I
So
love that. I'm gonna go to my cheat sheet now because you just like wrapped up so many questions. I'm like, wait, where are we at now? Is there a specific age that you've noticed simplifies and like inspires you more than another age? Like we were talking about before this call started, or maybe it was right at the beginning of this. Older a kid is, it's normally more difficult to handle. So when would you say, like, have you noticed a specific age you learn more from that, or do you normally find something from every age?
I mean, I definitely find something from every age for sure. Um, but I do think that I've learned the most from probably kindergarten to second grade, which is kind of like that age group. So probably like 4 to 7 is like the main um, age group that I think has taught me the most. Just, just with things that they say, because kids are really blunt and they repeat things that they hear from adults or from TV or something. And sometimes they don't know what it means, but when they do know what it means and they use it in the right context, because their minds are so simple and because like, you know, if this happens I say this, or if this happens I do this, there's no like gray area in their decision making. Like they're just very much like, even if it's the wrong decision, they're confident in it. And so I think that like that age group, because they're still so young, and they still say hilarious stuff, and but I don't know what it is. It's just kind of like when you see them value things about life that they shouldn't even really like know about, I guess, like they shouldn't even really be thinking about it. Like it's really cool to see how emotionally mature kids actually can be. They're not given credit for how emotionally mature that they can be. And so when you're not given credit for something, you think that you're doing it wrong. And so if we're not, if we're not given credit for, if they aren't given credit for how they're processing things, for how they feel, for who they are, they're never going to be built up to be successful emotionally, financially, physically. Like they'll never be successful if all we do is say, don't do that, don't do that, because kids are always told no, always,
Oh yeah.
no matter what the situation is, always told no. I guess it just kind of goes back to what I said before. Like they're a person just like you are. So like if somebody was constantly like, no, that's wrong. Are you kidding? Like no wonder they like are so. No wonder they cry at everything. Like so would I. Kindergarten through second grade, maybe even third, is the main age group that I think almost develops like what they hear and say is almost more important in their development than other age groups to me. I mean, I know it's all important, but that's kind of like my favorite area
Hmm.
because, life's not just like milk and a nap anymore. Like it's starting to grow and expand, and to watch them learn and become themselves is really cool.
And going back to what you said about like they're like valuing who they are and kind of like when like being told no, and like I would cry too, or like being told you can't do that. One of my biggest values for when I become a parent is to always explain to my kid why I tell them no, or why I tell them that they can't do that. Because if you're told no, you're like, well, why? No one wants to be told because I said so. Because in this world, you're always going to need an explanation for that. And if you teach the kids from a young age to say, I can say no because I want to, or I can do this just because I want to, that's not like that's going to be ingrained in their minds for how they act when they grow up. And I feel like a lot of kids were taught that way. And that's a really big issue with this generation. And then also, I wanted to add too, you were talking about seeing them discover values for the first time and seeing their thought process in their eyes and just be like, wow, putting like 1 and 2 together. I think I love watching like Noah and Avery discover things for the first time. It's funny to us because we're like, oh, we've known that for so long and like we degrade it, but for them, we can't degrade a miracle to them because they're still learning in this world.
Yeah.
And we can't just laugh at growth. We need to
Yes. Yes.
encourage it.
Yes. That's a really big thing. You can't laugh at growth, and you can't assume growth either. You know, growth happens at their own time, and I totally agree. I think that, I mean, now that I'm a teacher, I'm kind of like biased, I guess, in this like subject, but kids, no matter what age they are, get zero credit for who they are. And to go through life like that so young, I took a childhood development class last semester for school, and we talked about all of the factors that affect childhood development. And it really does start at home, but it also starts at school. And if we, like, as not even as a teacher, as like a community, are not looking at things that are degrading to children, that don't bring them up, that don't support growth, that don't, bring joy to kids are born like happy individuals. Like, like you see a kid, nothing bothers them, like nothing. And so it's not kids that make bad generations, it's society that makes bad generations. Mm-hmm. And it's parents that make bad generations. And like if you are not willing to put in the effort and the time that it takes to raise a child, to support them, to say, I'm proud of you, or like, that's so amazing that you figured that out, or that's awesome, or like, that's also my favorite color. Like, you shouldn't be around kids. And we will never be like emotionally stable enough to face life if we're not taken care of as a child. Mm-hmm. And it starts in the classroom, it starts at home, it starts with your friends. And so it's so important to just be aware of the things that kids are exposed to, that kids think, that kids are emotionally exposed to, and it's not paid enough attention to, and it's not made aware enough. Like, this is kind of off topic, but like sex trafficking with kids.
Oh, it's such a big thing right now.
So overlooked, though. So overlooked. And it's like, like, not to be like political and stuff here, we're okay with protesting about like Black Lives Matter and stuff, but when kids are involved, it doesn't matter. And like, that's disgusting to me. That's part of like something that's part of the human race that's gross to me, is that we would rather be politically, like, argue about politics and argue about, this sort of thing, when this is a huge issue and nobody's paying attention to it. And it's just proof that kids are just not paid attention to. And that's messed up to me. And that affects them. Like, you think it doesn't, but that affects them as individuals. Yeah, I can't remember what we were talking about before this.
Yeah, either. We just got so like, but also while we're on that topic of, because this is, like you said, off topic, but this is important to mention in this trafficking stuff has become more of a trend to talk about than it has been to become something that's an awareness. Mm-hmm. And like, people are saying like Black Lives Matter shouldn't be a trend. Correct. Standing up for something that's right should not be a trend. It should be something that you look into, and people are dismissing things like, oh, it's been around forever, like someone will fix it someday. That's not going to happen if everyone has that mindset. And if we all can just kind of do our research and do some small part to help in all these different areas, we can do a really big impact. I'll probably do some research and link below what people can do to help or donate. for those kind of causes, because that's something that is really important to kind of get off the dark side of the topic. Let me see. Oh, if my Face ID would work. Excuse me, do you not know who I am with makeup on? Going back to what you've learned from these kids and how they've kind of taught you, like you said, to live in the minute, not necessarily in the moment. How has that affected you overall personally as a person?
That's a good question. The past 2 years of my life, I have had a lot of change happen. A lot of change in myself, in my surroundings. Literally just had a huge change. Recently, I just moved into an apartment. Like lots and lots of change. And I think sometimes when we set goals for ourselves and when we complicate things and when, you know, we have this idea in our head of like what we should look like or where we should be at a certain time, we disappoint ourselves. And I think that the whole living in the minute thing has taught me that sometimes change is very gradual. And so I've never been able to look back on pictures or look back in situations and think, oh, I'm so much different now. Or I'm so much better now, because all I was looking for was physical things. Like I was like, oh, my hair looks the same, or I still like my body's still the same. But what I see now that I've learned the whole live in the minute thing, is that I am so much happier where I am right now than I was in high school. And not that I was like bad in high school or like I was in a bad place in high school, but I didn't even realize so many things about my life at that time stressed me out so bad. And I didn't even realize it until I was away from it. And until I realized that, like, you know what, like, let's just like take a deep breath and like realize that like where we are right now, this is it for this moment in time. This is it. And so like rushing things and like, you know, looking for a change and like seeking out relationships and or like seeking out value in other things, or just, you know, constantly like trying to find the end goal won't make you find the end goal. The end goal is the sum of the little minutes. And so if you don't live the little minutes, you're not going to make it to the end. Yes. And then your entire life, you'll just be looking for the end. Days go one by one. You don't get to skip weeks. You don't get to skip days. It goes one by one. And whether those days are good or they're bad or they're okay, they happen. And you go through it minute by minute and day by day. And when you do that, the end goal really is a product and a growth of yourself. And you can see that in kids. You can see that. I see it in myself now. So that's really affected me a lot, is just the whole every minute counts. Even if it's boring, it counts. It counts. It counts in your life, and it counts as who you are. If you really think about that and you really think, wow, like, you know, I ate a sandwich today. So that counts as a minute in my life. That counts. Or if it's, you know, I moved into an apartment today, that counts. That counts in your life. And, you know, we have so many choices that we make every day. And when we choose things that are beneficial, and when we choose things to do that better ourselves in every minute of our lives, that is what makes you better. And that is what makes you grow. Choosing things for your life, not choosing things to search for the end. So that's just kind of been I've talked on my Instagram story a lot about like what you do in the morning. Like what's the first thing that you do in the morning? And I think like a lot of things.
Wait. I'm gonna stop you right there, because remember that's your second interview.
Oh, right.
So yes. So this is a good preview for
that's how.
Yeah, this is a good preview for something else we're going to be talking with Berkley. But I gotta stop her right there before we get into a completely different interview. But no, that's really good too, because I feel like that ties in perfectly with, this is kind of your background and this is how you've been able to grow into the like reaffirmations that we'll be talking about in the next interview. So kind of what we were just talking about, but to kind of expand and backtrack, for me, knowing what all you went through in high school, and you don't have to really talk about it much more because I know you already did. What do you think you would tell your high school self, knowing what you've learned and are growing in right now?
It doesn't matter. That's what I would tell myself. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. The things that I valued in my life in high school are not important at all. Literally, the only thing that is still relevant in my life about high school is my grades. That's the only part of high school that matters. That's it. And I did, and you know what's kind of frustrating is I did have people tell me it doesn't matter. I did have people tell me that, but I believed it mattered. I believed, it doesn't matter. I placed so much importance and like value and energy into things that didn't benefit me when I thought they were. And now, like, I look back and I'm just like, I cannot believe that I did that. Like, not like bad things, but like, I'll be like, I cannot believe that I was involved in that. All right. Like, now, I don't know if people know that are watching, but because like we used to do, theater and choir in high school, when I'm in college and I tell people that I used to do theater, they're like, what? Just because that's not who I am anymore. It's just not who I am, And I realized when I left high school that there is so much more to our lives and to our values than who makes the lead or like what's for lunch or like whether you're going to get a prom date or not. And everybody thinks they know that, but you don't. You don't know that. And even if you do know that, you don't like live that way in high school.
It's
So
not one of your values.
yeah, I was listening to a podcast that had Miley Cyrus in it the other day,
Oh.
and the person that was interviewing her said something like, "How do you keep people in your life that benefit you? Like, what are the people that you want in your life?" And she said this, and I'll never forget this. I want people in my life that bring more to the table than just their plate. And when I like heard that, I was like, huh, like you choose. This is the whole thing too about like living in the minutes. It's like, you do have a say in who's in your life and who's not. And so if people are just bringing their plates and they're just coming back for seconds every day when you spent all the time like making the food and they did nothing, it's like, how does that benefit me? So, and that just goes with everything, like sports, friends, even family sometimes, like anything that I valued in high school, and not to say that I don't value my family and my friends still and stuff, but like things that I placed so much importance on in high school, and then I ignored and gave less energy to people and to things that actually cared about me when I thought that I was doing the opposite. Like I thought that I was placing value into valuable things when I wasn't. And now that I do that now, I just feel different. Like I feel like a different person. I I think differently now. And to anyone who's in high school that watches this, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It doesn't matter.
And
That's what I would say.
you're so right on that. Because I think we had this conversation, I think probably a week ago, on literally how it doesn't matter. We were talking about high school, and I don't think that she'll mind me saying this. One of our mutual friends from like, girl drama happens and stuff in high school, and that was a big value that we placed on it. Like you're saying, it doesn't matter. It was something so stupid. And if you're in high school and you're having something like that happen right now, I'm gonna tell you right now, me and this girl are friends. we just texted each other and we're like, hey, I'm sorry, this was really dumb, and we're friends. And it can really be as simple as that. Coming full circle, it can really be as simple as that. And if you just have that mindset of just like, how can I make this simpler for myself? How can I really calm myself down and say, okay, first of all, does this align with my values?
You need to ask yourself, like, is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Is this worth stressing myself out about? Is this worth anything? And if it's not, don't give it the energy or the attention. Or the high school, it's just high school itself is an attention whore. Like, the building itself is a complete attention whore, and it thrives on the drama that's created in it. And when you give it the attention, it's never good. It's never, ever, ever good. I can't tell you one story where I had drama and I was like, I loved that. I loved that. That was fun.
I feel like senior year is really when we were like, I really want to escape this, but I feel like I can't. Versus like junior and sophomore year, it's like, oh, we're creating drama. And you know what? That is honestly, I feel like what society has told us is normal. And I've thought about this. I wonder if we grew up thinking that this is not normal, if this actually happened or not. I wonder if we do this because we're girls and it just happens, or if it's because we have grown up being told, oh, wait till you're 16.
I mean, like, society has changed so much in just the past, like, year or two. Our lives are constantly filled with change, which is why I think that we're so impatient about things, because we constantly want something new, because that's what we're used to. I mean, it's a trend to want to be perfect. In a year, that won't be the trend. So it's like, I don't know. It's just like drama in high school is just like, there's so many movies about it, and you just expect it to be a certain way, and you have this like stereotype in your head, and it's only that way if you make it that way. Yep. You know, it's only bad if you make it bad. In high school, who you are as a person and the decisions that you make are literally nobody else's business but yours. And the person that you are and the person that you are becoming is personal, because there's only one you. So trying to be like everyone else, trying to like conform into society, into high school, is toxic. Like, you're bringing toxic things into your life on your own. And so I definitely think that society has a huge impact on how we perceive high school. Yeah. For sure. And it's going to continue to be that way until everyone realizes that.
And I think we're starting to get into a society too that, like, because I know it's starting to become a trend for body shaming to go away and for like all bodies to be accepted. But what happens when that trend goes away? Right. Are we going to go back to the trend that's always been?
Or because it's a trend, people aren't genuine about it. Like, they just say, oh, you're beautiful, to a plus size girl, to look like they are accepting, which is, to be honest, most people.
And I know people like that. I know people like that that do that about all different kind of things, and it's crazy because you wouldn't think that someone would do that, but there are so many different type of people out in the world, and just honestly take the time in high school to but try and cultivate a genuine person, because it's honestly really hard to be a genuine person in high school. But as long as you are trying to cultivate that and to cultivate kindness around you, you are gonna see stars. Like, life is gonna be a lot easier if you try and do that. Not saying it's gonna be easy, because it's high school. It's never gonna be easy.
Even though, like, we're talking like really negative about high school, and there is more negative than positive in my opinion, but high school is a critical point in your life that allows you to be the person that you're supposed to be, which is why a lot of people like to teach high school, because a lot of times right after high school is a huge turning point for people. So it is important to be in high school, because even though you're probably not the best person in high school, like let's be honest here, to reach your full potential, once again, you have to take it by the minutes.
One of the last questions I have for you, before I like wrap it up, so like we were talking about is trends in places. So I've noticed it's become a trend on like TikTok and Instagram stories to mimic like the shocking wisdom that kids can bring us. And what if we took that mindset with us everywhere? Like that we don't need to be shocked by simplicity anymore.
Like, I feel like I haven't talked about that enough, about the simplicity thing, because kids are the best at it. They're the best. They're who we should be learning from about how to live simply. In the summer, I am very mellow just because I'm with them all the time, and so everything about my life is just very simple. It's just pretty routine, and it's just pretty like it's what we do. I think it's a trend to be a minimalist. But I think if you are actually genuinely living simply and you're living by the minute and you know, you're just thriving in like who you are, like kids do. Like we're all at an age now where it's like it's time to stop playing pretend, and acting like we're somebody that we're not. This is who I am. Why act like I'm not who this is? Like that's so
It's
much
not
effort.
worth it.
Like what? Like yeah, I think a lot of people confuse simple as with boring. That's not what that means. My life is insane. Like I'm always having to do stuff, but it's very simple. It's what I want. It's very simple. It's valuable. And I just think that the kids this summer really like redirected my values in a lot of things. And now I'm here and I'm at school, and like it was different last year when I moved into my dorm, but this year when I moved into my apartment, it's a totally different feeling. And it's because my values are different.
Like you said, it's not boring. It's just taking things step by step instead of having step one with like ABC and like having that all crunched together and having it like a speeding racetrack. Instead of it being like step one, okay, cool, like taking it on the nice trail. But you just take it slower. You take it one step at a time rather than it being all jumbled together and emotional and just a wreck and confusing, like we had talked about before. It's kind of associated with high school.
Mm-hmm.
So like you talked about earlier, not everyone likes kids, unfortunately. So for the people that have watched this, if they've watched this far, because they might have seen this and be like, oh, kids, yuck, I'm not watching this. But if you have stayed this far, thank you. What would you suggest to those people that aren't necessarily a fan of kids and like babysitting, or aren't really around kids a lot, to help them reach the same aspiration of a simplified soul, simplified mindset?
Try it. Just try it. Just be around kids, babysit for 2 hours. Just 2 hours of your day. Be around a kid and ask them stuff. Ask them stuff. Just like about themselves, about, what do you think about that? Just ask them and go into it open-minded. Don't go into it as like, this is work. Go into it as like, what can I learn from this? And you should approach every situation like that. What am I going to learn from this today? And then with living simply, make a list of every single thing that's important to you. Everything that's important to you, and only do things that center around that. That's it. Like, it's not a complicated algorithm. It's just doing exactly that.
I feel like people think it's so hard to live simply, and that sounds so, I don't know what the word is. I'm going to say like it sounds like such a paradox. That's probably like the wrong word. I failed English junior year, so don't come at me if that's wrong. But it just sounds so reversed. to say that it sounds so complicated to live simply, but I understand why it sounds so complicated. It's because we really have to backtrack, because we've learned over our life that things do get complicated, and things can get chaotic. But it's about learning to ground yourself and learning how to slow your mindset down. So thank you so much for talking with me.
Of course.
We will be back with another interview episode, whatever you want to call this, sometime soon. And we will be going on about affirmations and, again, talking about mindset and just life in general. And it'll go so far beyond just kids and babies and stuff, I promise. So you won't want to miss that. So go ahead and subscribe and just let me know what you thought of it. So I'm going to link Berkley's Instagram down below, because she posts stories all the time about stuff like this, and you can learn so much from her. You do this kind of stuff daily, don't you? Almost daily?
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's a really good tool just to follow her, honestly. So I really love it. I'm serious. I really love waking up to it. I'm like, oh, Berkley posted. I'm going to see what I can learn today. And
good. That's what I hope. That's what I hope people say.
Yes. All right. Well, we're going to end it right here, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye.
Bye.